Okay, hello, good evening everyone. It's great to see all your bright shining faces on this beautiful day. Today at this meeting we have a couple of guest speakers as always, but I also have a few, well, I'm just going to be short and then I'll probably circle back towards the end with some other information that I want to present to the community. As you all know, and if you don't know, my name is Shannon Thomas. I'm the Civic Association President, Citizens Civic Association President. Something that I kind of wanted to touch bases on, I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with. On Saturday, there was a demand for resolution within Ward 7 as far as crime is concerned. I don't know if you guys heard the recent story up in Hillcrest where a young lady was held at gunpoint for about 15 minutes and she was pregnant. That was my friend, and her name is Maria. And I'm going to try not to get emotional about it. But it was very alarming to me that something like that happened right next door with my neighbors. I feel that it was very alarming, and I actually had a conversation with her today, and she said, you know, she's very happy that the community is rallying behind her, giving her phone calls, trying to give her support, but mentally she's just tapping out. And you know, at the same time, she's trying to not do so because she's pregnant and she doesn't want to further stress herself out. At the meeting on Saturday with the mayor and Chief Newsham, she felt as though our concerns were falling on deaf ears, and they were kind of passing the buck to, we'll present these concerns to council. These are issues that should be voiced at council. And these are our leaders. These are people that represent our community, and they were kind of passing the buck as to who should be implementing more officer coverage within our community. So that was very alarming that she felt, you know, that she wasn't even getting the support that she needed. And prior to her moving to this quadrant of the city, she used to live past Howard, up in the Shaw area. And she said this would never happen up there. They would have caught this man by now. And the fact that she said even going past that area, even coming home, it's a trigger. I'm scared. I don't know if he's going to come again. He physically was outside of her house minutes before he actually caught her while walking her dog and held her at gunpoint. So our ANC board, and I know me on my behalf of this association, I'm going to work with them. They're currently trying to rally and put together something to draw attention to this situation that was kind of like semi-swept up under the rug. So that for me was very alarming. I'm a mom. I, you know, would never want anything to that nature happen to me at such a precious, jovial, happy time. So I just want to put that on you all's radar, and when I'm informed as to when we will be meeting or putting together something to really address that, I will let the community know. Now, hold on just a second. So now, we will let Officer Jameson come up and do the crime report after I kind of beat you guys up just a little bit.
You deserve to get beat up when we need to get beat up.
Okay.
So I'll be the first one to tell you that. And also, just to let you know, I talked to her and her husband at the ANC commission for about, at the ANC meeting last month. I talked to her and her husband for about 45 minutes about what happened. We did get, and like she said, we did have video of the guy who actually was in the area for about 2 hours before the attack even occurred. So, but after that, I gave her a lot of police presence, and she thanked me for that. The detective were routinely following up with her. But as Ms. Thomas said earlier, you need to hold the chief and the mayor accountable for how police manpower is out here. You know, I'm leaving next month. I still live in Fairfax Village. Your elected officials who are getting paid by your tax dollars need to be held accountable. Now, they did move up from Columbia Heights, and she said that you wouldn't see that up there. You probably would, but you keep seeing it over here because we allowed it. So you need to hold these people accountable. Myself, the commander, the assistant chief, the chief. They're the ones getting paid by your tax dollars, and you need to hold them accountable for what you're not getting over here. If you believe that's being slighted, okay? That's why I go to the ANC meetings every month. Like I say, I live in Fairfax Village. I pay a lot of taxes, and I demand my city officials to do what my tax dollars are paying for. It's as simple as that.
So
you're absolutely right.
What would you suggest?
I would call Bishop Gray's office first.
What would you suggest the community association?
I suggest that you all ask them how they allocate police manpower in this area. Because that's all I can say for right now. But if I leave in May, I'll tell you a whole lot more. Now, let me go to the crime report. We had one homicide in 605, and that was the infant over the 4600 block of Alabama Avenue that was beaten to death. There was blunt force trauma. Within this area, it was in the 4600 block of Alabama. And that case should probably be closed soon. We had an uptick in crime in 605. Violent crime was up by 17%. It was led by, that was classified as a homicide for that infant because it was blunt force trauma. It wasn't natural, so it increased our violent crime. Our property crime was up a little bit by a few theft from autos and stolen autos. Let me tell you the areas of those. We started with ADW guns. 60 on the block of, correction, ADW's equal guns, not equal other. 60 on the block of Fort Davis Street, 29 on the block of Nelson Place, and the 15 on the block of 21st Street. We had 2 robberies, 33 on the block of Minnesota Avenue, and the 3000 block of Elm Street, Southeast. We put 3 burglaries, 39 on the block of Penn, the 11 on the block of Branch Avenue, and the 41 on the block of Alabama Avenue. There were 7 stolen autos in 605, 36 on the block of Eli Place, 39 on the block of Alabama, 25 on the block of Fairlawn, 32 on the block of Elm Street, 3000 block of Nelson Place, 32 on the block of Penn, and the 24 on the block of Longmont Square. There also were 10 thefts in 605. Also, in 606, there was some skeleton remains found behind the Wellness Center at 30th in Alabama. A cause of death has not been determined yet, but they are human. It's probably been back there for more than probably a year. We don't know who has gotten identified yet or anything like that. But my first thought when I heard it was must have been a deer, but it turned out to be human. So the archaeologist and the bone doctor I called and the medical examiner hope they can come up with some type of identification cause of death of that. So any questions, comments, or concerns? On my second to last meeting? I know somebody got something about crime.
Why was the response pertaining to that incident, talk to council about it, instead of trying to up police coverage in Ward 7? I mean, why was it just so easy to pass the buck with that ordeal? I didn't understand.
That's a good question. I think probably because they couldn't get away with it. That's my opinion. You know, but you know, only people file like everybody else. You know, like get paid by tax dollars, so we should be accountable. I strongly believe that. But I want to work with what I got, what's given to me. Because after she got robbed, I had all the police in that area from the morning that we saw the video. I think that guy started hanging out in the alley like at 4 in the morning. Because people gave us their videos. We saw this guy, tracked him, and whatnot. Then he carjacked somebody else and she tried to get help. The construction workers was working on the house. And that was the end part of that, so that 15-minute thing. So, and people in the community were very helpful, and I made sure that she saw the police constantly. And that's what it should be. Yeah, I talked to both of them out. I went to personally let them know. Well, I was going to do it if I don't bring my family out, and she got a problem. Yes, ma'am.
You know, everywhere, Wells Fargo, you come out of there, there's always some young child or an older person or somebody in a wheelchair or something. Can I have your change, please? Can I have your change, please? Just
Well,
walking
Panhandlers?
up and down, Penn Grand Shopping Center, you know. And they're always there, young people and older.
Okay. I actually go to that Planet Fitness right down around the thing there. I know it doesn't look like it, but I actually do.
You just take that information on the robbery, so you can hear from us where, when.
Say what?
They want you to repeat the information about the robbery with
When and where and what time of day you're going to happen?
It was in the morning. I don't have the exact time. I think it's in the morning, like at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Over on 5W and 31st Street. I'm not gonna give you an exact address to protect my privacy, but it's over there. Anything else? Nothing? Going once, going twice? You sure? Okay. Anything to the board?
that you all support and or something of the sort to kind of.
Okay. All right, thank you. Oh, Robert?
I would like to make a suggestion that ties to what our president asked. 3/4 of your community is surrounded by National Park Service, and there are four park police are authorized. Are authorized to circulate. We need to reach out to the park police again and make sure we know when they're scheduled a rotation through our community, because we have a lot of new, fun, young people walking early in the morning, and we want them to feel safe.
Sure.
And I concur with also addressing our current chief of police. I would add in that request.
Can you
from
speak
time
louder,
to
please?
You want the mic?
I had, the first statement was that 3/4 of our land is in parkland, and we can reach out to park police to ask them to restart monitoring our parkland and our homes that are near them. And second, to add to her request, what they do in the other parts of town is the cadets who finished their first year are allowed to patrol your communities. So yes, we want to know how many of the new, when they graduate, are going to be assigned to our side. But in the interim, can we get those cadets patrolling in our community per se? Because that's what they do uptown.
Anything else? All righty.
Thank you so much. Now I'll let Kyle come up and do the minutes from our last meeting.
All right, thank you, Shannon. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Good evening. At our last meeting, on March 12th, 2019, we received a crime report from Lieutenant Jamison. At that time, crime was down 34% from February. We heard from several guest speakers. The first were Clara Botstein and Vanessa Anderson from Bard College Preparatory High School. She spoke about the Bard program, and there's much more details in the minutes from last month. There should be copies on the table and also circulating. The second guest speaker was Laura Bassett from Casey Trees, Gabrielle, also a community education coordinator, and Nicole Armstead-Williams to talk about the forest bathing initiative that's coming up on April 20th. Also more information in the minutes from last month on that. And resident Joan McKenzie talked about the summer yard sale. Details on that right now. The date for that is June 22nd, with June 29th being the rain date. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay. We got the treasurer's report. February ending balance was $2,342.32. And then we heard several reports from committee members and officers, including on the website, Public Works Committee, the block captains newsletter, and there was, at the end, a call for applicants for a $1,000 annual scholarship on behalf of the Tuskegee Airmen local chapter. Also, we announced that the annual community day was going to be August 10th. The rain date of August 17th, has that changed?
Yeah,
It's going to be August
August 17th.
and no rain day.
Okay, so now it's changed to August 17th, no rain date for this year's community day. Any questions?
I just have a quick update on the yard sale, and I want to pass around a sign-up sheet for volunteers and also participants, people who might want to either rent a space or rent a space. Sorry, you can't hear, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, quick update on the yard sale. It is June 22nd, right here in the parking lot of this church, Penn Avenue Baptist. And we are going to be renting spaces for $20 a space. If you need to rent a table, it's a 5-foot table and it's going to be an extra $10. We're trying to keep it to 5, but we haven't been able to get low-cost tables, so it's going to be an additional $10. We are looking for volunteers, and we have some sign-up sheets for people and some list of like different types of tasks that we need help with. The sale runs from 10 to 3 with setup starting at 8:30 a.m. In the past, it's been pretty successful, and as long as the weather cooperates, everybody has a good time. So this year we're looking at possibly having a community table again where people can donate items that you just want to donate to Penn Branch, the Civic Association, and then we sell them, and all of that is profit, is a donation to the association. And we might also sell some light snacks and bottled water. We're also considering, if we can get the help, maybe having a grill and doing hot dogs and hamburgers. So it's really all contingent on the number of volunteers that we get and what people are able to help us with. But the bare bones yard sale is the table rentals and space rentals, and then additional things we can add as we get people to help us. All right, so these are the sign-ups. If you run out of space, please feel free to use the back.
Thank you, Joan and Kyle, for the updates. Do we accept the minutes? Okay, now I will have Gabrielle come up and give us an update on our forest bathing.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse me, I have some allergies. So my name is Gabrielle. I'm the Community Education Coordinator at Casey Trees. Casey Trees is a nonprofit in the district dedicated to restoring, enhancing, and protecting the tree canopy of the nation's capital. And we have partnered with DC Department of Parks and Recreation to do more events outside at your local recreation centers. So at the last meeting, we had someone named Nicole Armstead Williams come in. She's a certified forest therapist, and she talked to us about forest bathing. I have flyers in the back, and there are more details in the minutes. Forest bathing is essentially a very intentional walk through the woods to reap all of the positive health benefits that we humans get from being among nature. All of the benefits in terms of stress reduction, calming your breath, easing anxiety symptoms, a whole bunch of things like that. So Nicole talked about the process of it, and I wanted to come back today to talk to you a little bit about some concerns that were brought up about the forest bathing event. So it will take place Saturday, April 20th in Pope Branch Park from 10 to 12 p.m. It's a 2-hour event. And there were some concerns about wildlife in that area, so we have spoken to DC Department of Energy and the Environment, DOEE, and they have wildlife biologists who are monitoring that area pretty regularly. We actually have a bat house there to curb down the mosquito population, And they have a number of wildlife biologists who are going out and regularly counting salamanders and other amphibians that are in Pope Branch Park. We have told them about concerns about what they call, this is their term, charismatic macrofauna. So things a bit more intense than deer that maybe have larger teeth and are not herbivores and can seem very threatening to us. There have been no confirmed incidents of mountain lions or bobcats in this area. There are coyotes in Rock Creek Park. In Rock Creek Park, they have not found any east of the river. And what we have asked them is to go by every week and every day the week before our event, and they know what to look for when they see leaves just strewn about and tracking animal defecation and things like that, to let us know if there are any sort of wildlife in the area that we should be concerned about before that event. We will also have a wildlife biologist with us during the forest bathing event on April 20th. So I hope that relieves some anxieties you are having. I'd be happy to talk with you more about that. I will also be in the back after this meeting signing people up. There's instructions on the flyer on how to sign up. And if you plan on coming, it's very important that you let us know if you plan to attend, because as you all know, there are many different entrances to Pope Branch Park, and so based on if it rains that day and we have to do a rain date, there are going to be different messages that go about where to meet and what kind of clothing you should be wearing for the event. So let me know if you have any questions afterwards. I'll be sitting in the back and can register you and hope to answer anything you have about forest bathing. Thanks so much.
Make sure you guys sign up and go and get some therapy in the woods. I mean, just unplug, be present. So I'm excited about that event on April 20th. Next, I will have a friend of our community, Tony Stark, come up and give us some pressing updates about Penn Branch Shopping Center.
Thank you. As she said, my name is Tony Stark from Gyro and the Trail State Partners. I'm here to talk about charismatic macrofauna. That's a term I just learned, actually.
Exactly.
As I'm sure you all have as well. As I said, I'm from Gyro and the Trail State Partners. We are the owner of Penn Branch Shopping Center, or Shops at Penn Branch. And I'm here just really to give a brief update on the project, both the renovation of the existing building and future development of the rear parking lot. So I'll first start with brief update on the renovation. As you've been by the center, I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of progress. Please bear with us. It's obviously a tough, tenant in place renovation project, but you're starting to see a lot more progress with the new windows have been installed in the second floor office. The new elevator is being installed over the next week or so. The new office lobby is well underway, and a lot of the mechanical systems and bones of the building are being addressed. New tenant signage will be coming likely late April, early May, and will be substantially complete with the renovation, including all the exterior finishes, continuing the gray paint scheme that you see around Planet Fitness. That'll be continuing around the remainder of the building. That'll be done likely in May. So we'll be fully complete by early summer. Quick update on retail and office leasing, I should say. We do have a new tenant that I believe we talked about with in a prior meeting session with some folks on O Street. But we have Paisano's Pizza is going to be coming in and taking the space that's currently occupied by H&R Block. H&R is going to be leaving at the end of April, at the end of their lease. Paisano's should hopefully be open by late summer. Additionally, you probably know we have a retail space adjacent to Planet Fitness on the lower level, about an 1,800 square foot space. We are in talks, we have been for a while, we're trying to break through the logjam, but we are in talks with basically a full-service restaurant with coffee bar, cafe-style restaurant that's going to take that space. Don't have anything signed yet, but fingers crossed we'll be able to announce something fairly soon on that. But I think it'll be a great fit for the neighborhood. And then we're continuing to work towards a long-term extension with CVS. As some of you may know, their current lease expires in June of next year, and so we've been pushing to get them to renew, and actually are pushing to give them some money to renovate the interior of their store while we take care of the exterior. So hopefully we'll have more news on that in the coming months. And then as far as the second floor office space, we have one signed lease. Total on the second floor, we have about 17,000 square feet of space. We have a 2,500 square foot tenant that's a nonprofit that provides culinary or job training services with a specialty in sort of culinary and hospitality, in the culinary hospitality industry. And then we have a letter of intent signed. Can't announce it until we have a signed lease, but a group that's going to take about 7,000, so almost will be almost 50% leased on the office space. That's purely administrative office space for that use. And then the redevelopment of what we call Parcel 2, which is the rear parking lot. We are right now focusing on a for sale townhome plan. We have offers in from a handful of home builders. I know we've had this conversation with the neighborhood previously. You know, we're a developer, but sort of residential home building is its own animal. So in this situation, assuming we get, we go down this path, we would do what we call the land development, which would be installing all the utilities and infrastructure, and then a home builder, one of the many you probably see out in the suburbs or in other parts of the district, like a Ryan Homes or Lennar or Pulte, would actually do the vertical development. So that plan gets to about 35 to 40 townhomes, and we're still working through that, still working through those plans right now. So that is that's the update. I'm sure there's lots of questions. So.
Where was the townhome being?
I'm sorry?
Where was the townhome?
On the rear parking lot, there'd be part of our renovation plan for the existing building is converting some of the space adjacent to Planet Fitness to covered parking to free up the rear parking lot for development.
So I thought that was going to be like a multi-level apartment.
Yeah, so we have since we purchased the property back in 2016, we've investigated and analyzed a number of different development options, including a mixed-use project that would be apartment over retail. We unfortunately just not had a lot of luck attracting, our goal was to get an anchor grocery tenant to take the ground floor of that space. We've not had a lot of luck. We've had a lot of interest generally in the site. Grocers like the market, like the location. They don't want to be set back that far off of Pennsylvania Avenue. And so because of that, we didn't think there was enough, we'd be able to get enough sort of juice to get financing for a higher density mixed use project. But we do think a residential development does work.
And when are you going to update the pictures on the website so folks can see that?
Good question. I actually got in trouble today for not having the website updated, but yeah, we will have that updated over the next few weeks.
Repeat the question.
She asked when we were going to have the our website updated, which is admittedly very out of date. So I take responsibility for that. Yes, sir.
So these be townhomes fronting Main Avenue? What is that, Texas Avenue or Branch Avenue going down the hill?
So the towns would be a mix of ones that front on Branch, some would front on Branch Avenue, and then we would create an interior street inside of our site, and some towns would be fronting on that interior street.
This would be most likely 2 to 3 level? 2 to 3 level?
Yeah, yes, three-story townhomes, yes.
I think Mrs. Coleman was first before.
And you have,
Okay.
and you have already got permission and have everything to do that? I mean, we,
Yeah, so as a lot of you will recall, we, starting about 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, came to the neighborhood, the A&C and folks on O Street, and we rezoned the rear parking lot. It was previously a residential, low-density residential zone. It's been rezoned now to a moderate density mixed-use zone, so we have the ability to do a mix of residential or commercial uses on the site.
And just to be clear, about how many townhouses, 2 questions, so how many townhouses are you looking at approximately? And then I want to kind of go back to the retail part and what you're trying to do next.
Okay, so depending on the builder and the final plan, somewhere in the 35 to 40 townhome range.
And rental or
For sale.
for sale? And do they, you know the range or?
I don't. There would be, in the district, there is an inclusionary zoning requirement, so a small number would be set aside as affordable, but starting range is probably in the mid fives for market rate units.
Okay, and then back to the retail in terms of what your mix is, just understanding what, in absence of a grocery store, which people wanted, what's the what next?
So we have, some of the feedback we have gotten from when we've been in the market talking to grocers is, they want to be up on Pennsylvania Avenue. We have made overtures to the owner of the laundromat site adjacent to our site. We've made a number of offers. We have an offer that's on the table and standing with them now. They haven't acted on it yet. We do think that if we get a grocery store, that is the primary site to get one here, because you get frontage on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Which means basically, the thoughts of having a grocery store is not completely dead. It's not viable on that property, but possible on the, well, I forgot the people that own that. The Zuno Brothers or something similar? The guys that own their property you're looking at?
I think it's Burka.
Burka Brothers,
Yes.
okay, perfect.
Yeah. And just to remind everyone, we've had a number of conversations with the neighborhood over the years, and just to give you some of the, repeat some of the backstories, that when we bought this property in 2016, we bought it at foreclosure from the prior owner who had, or from the lender who had owned it for a few years. They had foreclosed back in 2010 or so. We looked at a wide range of options, everything from scraping the entire site and fully redeveloping to redeveloping just on a portion of it. What we settled on was, the reality is that the existing building has some long-term tenancy in it, and generally pretty good tenancy. I think Wells Fargo has 15 years remaining on their lease. 7-Eleven was signed right before we actually purchased the property, and that's a 10-year term. So we didn't think the sort of game of trying to buy out tenants or temporarily relocate them was ever really going to work in the short term. So we settled on this business plan of renovate the existing building and look at redevelopment options on just the rear parking lot, and also look at assembling some additional land and assembling the adjacent laundromat site. And so that's why the kind of why what we're doing is what we're doing. Why we're renovating the existing building and looking at redeveloping the rear lot versus scraping the entire thing. So we very much want to and still do want to get a grocery store here, and but I think we've had discussions with the neighborhood over the years that at the end of the day we want to see something happen, and our ideal is to have something besides just an empty surface parking lot there, rather than we want to see something rather than nothing.
Marla?
So I'm a little surprised because I live on O Street and we had a 2-year conversation about this, and O Street came to Penn Branch and asked for support, and we so people who are saying the community doesn't want this, that was not the message we got at the time when we came to O Street. So we compromised with Jar Lynch because originally it was going to be 5 stories and over 150 apartments. And this was a compromise that O Street made to bring it down to something that's more manageable. So when people are saying we don't want the townhouses, that's too much for that space, that was our compromise position. So just know that the message we got at the time is that the community was in full support of the larger edifice going up 5 stories. And so I'm hearing differently back here now, but that was the message we got. And it was a very contentious process, but that's what we were told. So O Street came to the table. We've been working with Mr. Stark for over a year, having meetings, and this is the compromise position of O Street to meet the needs of what we were told what the community wanted. So when you ask, do the people on O Street agree? We came to this position for what we believe was in the best interest of the wider community. So I just want to tell you that.
We're trying to give everybody 3 minutes at max.
Well, I wasn't at 3 minutes, but that's fine.
I just have a question about, you mentioned a sit-down restaurant. Are you referring to like fast casual, or like, can you give us an idea of what type of restaurant is a pizza place?
So if you're talking about the space adjacent to Planet Fitness, that's not a pizza place. Pizza place is the old H&R Block space, but the sit-down restaurant, it's a local mom and pop, for lack of a better term. It's not a national chain, but they're a heavy. They're basically a coffee bar plus full service breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I probably doing a terrible job explaining their concept, but it's not a national chain or anything like that. It's not quick serve. It's not a Chipotle or Chick-fil-A or Nando's or anything like that. It's on sort of the hierarchy of restaurants, it's sort of a step up from that because it does have sort of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They would, assuming we get to a deal with them, they would be coming back to the neighborhood. I believe they want to do, if not just beer and wine, they may seek a full liquor license. They do, but I don't want to, unfortunately, I don't want to give too much away until we have a signed agreement with them. So.
And how will you announce that when that happens? How will you all announce?
Yeah, we will. That's actually a good question. We'll make an announcement either at another Civic Association meeting, another ANC meeting. So it's not going to be a secret once we get them signed up.
I'm gonna stay here.
So I'm gonna step in now. So like Tony communicated, they have been very pivotal in coming and communicating with us at the drop of a hat whenever we have asked. So again, you guys have to pay attention to these meetings and what's being discussed, because these moments have happened numerous times. And any time that they have had any current update or anything that has changed or shifted or whatever the case may be, we've communicated it to the community as well as he has done. So thank you again for sharing the updates. Thank you again for taking a chance on our community and our neighborhood. And we will do whatever we can to make sure that those buyers and those developers want to come to our ward of the city. So thank you again.
Thank you all.
I have a question. So you mentioned that the information is being communicated to the community.
Yes.
How is it being communicated?
So last summer, like he said, we had an event at the back of the shopping center where they actually had what was like a mock building with the plans, and that was over 2 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, that was summer of 2017.
Yeah, so that was before I even came in, and leading up to the hearings and so forth that we had based on the redevelopment of Penn Branch, they actually came out, and it was like maybe 3 or 4 meetings before we actually even voted on anything. I'm trying to think, at one point.
Last year, September, for
Yes.
September meeting.
During the summer as well,
And
this past summer, so yeah.
January.
since we purchased the property, we've been to,
Maybe
I
10?
have a detailed list in my office.
Even at the
It's about
ANC.
5 ANC meetings, at least 3 to 4 of the full Penn Branch Civic Association meetings. I know Commissioner Hammond had a couple of special Penn Branch specific meetings, and then Ms. Dean.
Even a meeting with us in O Street here, so they've been very communicative. I think overly, actually. Quickly.
I know that I'm listening to you saying you've had meetings, but I think it's very important to put those meetings, if you know in advance, to put them in the newsletter or even send out a special report, because everybody's not on the computer if you have it online, but it's important that everybody know and not always find out at the last minute.
Okay.
That would definitely be appreciated.
And it was in a newsletter at one point, when we had a meeting back in September.
It was on the website.
And it was on the website as well, for those who do check.
So I remember that there was one meeting for the O Street residents only, so if you're referring to that meeting, that wouldn't occur, I mean, that wouldn't affect the majority of us.
No, that was like one out of many.
Okay.
That was just one.
But I guess what I'm saying is, and I agree with my community member, is that even if there are meetings, maybe to put out some sort of summary or some sort of something.
Minutes.
It has been also in the.
Okay. All right. Well, never mind. I must be the only one who doesn't know. And I went downtown also to the hearing. So I'm very active when it comes to that. And I mean, I just don't feel like I've heard all of it. And I come to most every meeting. I've gone even downtown. I'm just saying that maybe to summarize it so that it is in a separate section. So as opposed to feeling like we're asking for something that is impossible, to me, I think it's important. I don't know. Am I the only one? I don't know. Okay.
So I'm very open to suggestions, and if it's any way that we can kind of compile that information and make sure that we make it readily available, we will do whatever we can, because I don't want anyone to feel that they are not aware of what's going on. But I do feel like they have been very excellent with giving us community service as far as communicating with us at a drop of a hat. So now, did you have anything last that you wanted to say?
No, the only thing I'll say is, our policy is we're going to be as open with you as we possibly can, and if there's ways we can improve our communication, by all means, we take that to heart. We'll do our best to make sure, whether it's email blasts, flyers on doors, we'll step it up and make sure that.
And update the website. All right, thank you. So now I'm excited because one of our guest speakers is from our community, and she's going to talk and discuss with you guys today about health and wellness. So Ms. Jelon Burton Washington, please, I said it backwards. Jelon Washington Burton, please come up and introduce yourself to the community and tell them what you're going to tell us about today.
Hi, everybody.
Mike.
Okay, microphone it is. My name is Dr. Jelon Washington Burton, and I live in Penn Branch right on S Street. We're going into our 4th year in this community, and thank you to everyone who has been so sweet and kind to our children and our family, and to the urban gardeners here for their tips. So I have reached out to the Penn Branch Citizen Civic Association to just say, like, I'm a doctor, I'm here in the community, whenever you want me to come and speak, I am here for you. So if folks have kids' health questions, I am here. And so today, I'm going to be talking about kids' health. There's going to be information in there that everybody can use, but please share it with others. So that's me. I have been in medicine and public health for over 10 years. It's going on year number 14. So I can't say 15 years yet, but I'm getting pretty darn close. So I have a background in public health. I went to Columbia for my master's degree in public health, and I obtained my medical degree here at GW, and actually fell in love with Southeast DC while a medical student here at GW. I did all of my rotations east of the river that I could, like the ones that they let you choose. I chose to be east of the river, mostly because, folks look like me over here. Folks, it's a very underserved area in DC, as we all know. but as a medical student, learning about some of the health disparities and things, I felt really compelled to live here in the community. And so I chose to live here, and I also chose to open a practice here. So I think one of the main issues I have with healthcare, I'm sure a lot of folks here have issues with healthcare, but just the rushed appointments and the 10-minute appointments and having to rush through with these children with complex health issues. For me, it was something that I had to change, and you can't really change it when you work for a big hospital system because they make you do what they want. I went in every single morning and had 35 patients scheduled. So I don't know, how many people here have children or grandchildren? Does 15 minutes really work for you for an appointment? The questions you have, does it work for anyone?
Nope.
Okay, so the national average is 16.4 minutes that you get with your primary care doc. I think our health outcomes speak for themselves. We have epidemic levels of obesity and dental caries and asthma and everything. And so a lot of physicians, especially younger physicians such as myself, are saying enough. We need to do it on our own. We need to make it local. And so that's what I'm doing. And so Healthy Home Pediatrics is my company. I'm here in your community. I have a community discount. If I can walk or take my bike, I'll hook you up. I only see up to age 22. So we'll go to the next. So my objectives for this are to make this as interactive as possible. I do want to review some common conditions affecting children here in Washington, D.C., and particularly in our community, what I see every day in my practice. I want to review some common things that every family can use to raise healthy kids, and it's the basics. Like it's not rocket science, it is literally the basics. And then I want to talk about some solutions that local pediatricians are developing to improve kids' health here in D.C. All right, so I forgot my props. I had plants for people who answered questions right. They are on my porch. So if you get the question right, Sharon, do you mind writing down the name of whoever gets the question right? I will drop off either a basil plant or a tomato plant to your house, as long as you live in the community. But they were sitting there, and then we had to get the baby. It didn't work, but they're there and they're ready to be planted. I'd probably wait about 2 more weeks. Okay, so question number 1. What is the top pediatric condition in the country? The most common chronic childhood disease? Is it A, so I will let ADHD, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder? Is it asthma? Is it obesity and overweight, or is it tooth decay? And I already saw a hand. I saw a hand. Her hand was up first. No, tooth second. I don't know whose hand was up second. I heard tooth decay in the back. Who said tooth decay? Yes. Okay, next slide. So tooth decay is actually the most common chronic childhood disease. I see it every single day. And so I'm going to show you some pictures on the next slide. So I'm going to step away from the mic.
You can take the mic.
Can take it with me? Yeah.
Just push it up. Push it towards you.
All right. Okay, I don't know if y'all can see this, but if you look right there, when you look at kids' teeth are supposed to be a uniform white. So if you see like little chalky deposits, it looks like you can almost scrape them off. That's mild tooth decay in a child. Moderate, to me, moderate in this picture actually is on the severe end, and then the severe, that's severe decay. Does anyone know like the most common reasons why kids get tooth decay? Okay, I hear sugar, I hear soda.
Nutrition.
Milk, okay.
Overall nutrition.
Overall nutrition, okay.
So lack of dental care on a regular basis.
Lack of dental care, all right. Those are all good answers. You can flip to the next page, talk about it a little bit. So the main thing is not brushing. So I see so many kids every day where no one is brushing their teeth. Like kids with 4 teeth, kids with however many teeth. When should you start brushing kids' teeth? When they have how many teeth? 1. The absolute first tooth. You get them a little toothbrush from the grocery store with Iron Man or Batman or Unicorn, and you get them kids' toothpaste. You don't have to buy that little infant Orajel toothpaste. Just buy them a regular tube of toothpaste with Iron Man or whatever on it. You want to use just a little teeny dab, like almost like the size of a pea, and just get them used to you brushing front, back, gums, and back. Start flossing kids' teeth as early as possible. So our baby, which you guys saw crawling around here, my husband was like, you know, the folks are not going to be happy that you're letting him crawl around. It's good for his immune system. He's okay. But he has 8 teeth, and I have been flossing his teeth since he had 4 teeth. So I use the little floss picks, and I just scrape anything off. All of us know that it's really hard to brush away kind of tooth plaque and buildup, and so you do want to scrape it off. And the little floss picks work really well. Folks are often scared that they're going to stab the child in the gums or something like that. They'll be fine. They will not die of you stabbing them in the gums accidentally. It's happened to my baby. He's fine. He lets me brush his teeth. I floss his teeth. So you folks want to make sure they minimize or avoid sugary drinks. I am a pretty conservative doc in very few things, but sugar is one. We do not buy juice at our house. We just don't. I have seen too much tooth decay. When we have cookouts and things like that, we can get juice and soda, and usually my son Azola, who's 7, the first thing he says after he goes somewhere is, I have juice. I have juice. Because he knows we don't give it to him at home. So I say every day, no juice, no soda, no sweet tea, no Kool-Aid. I can't have the zero sugar stuff. Why? We don't know what that sorbitol and all that stuff is going to do in the long term. So I say, if I'm going to say no to sugar, I'm going to say no to sorbitol. Like, I don't even know how to say it barely, sorbitol. I don't really want it in my body or my child's body. And then minimize or avoid candy. So I put on their fruit snacks because I can't tell you every single day I get, but fruit snacks are healthy, Dr. J. They absolutely are not. They are chock full of sugar, and if anything, they actually get, I know Shannon was like, you're not, I went over this with her beforehand, and she was like, what do you mean no fruit snacks? They are very gummy, and they get caught down in between the teeth, which when you see kids with all those silver caps in the back of their mouth, a lot of times, they're eating those fruit snacks. So instead of a fruit snack, give them an orange. Get them those little clementine things. Like, they like it, it'll fill them up more, and they won't be asking you for something else to eat, like, very quickly. Yes, ma'am?
Once the kids' teeth fall out, does that solve the problem? Or?
Okay, so the question is, once the child's teeth fall out, does that solve the problem? For me, no, because if you haven't changed what caused the problems in the first place, you're just going to do it to their adult teeth, and it's worse for them to have tooth decay in their adult teeth, because there's nothing we can do to fix those other than pull them out. Right? You see kids all the time with caps on their front teeth because they have used a bottle or breastfed too long. And so you just want to make sure before they go to sleep, especially, brush those teeth. And so my baby, he's still breastfeeding. At night, he gets to breastfeed one more time, I brush those teeth, and then you're cut off for the rest of the night. So that's what I recommend. Any other questions? Okay.
So as a parent, my concern is the fluoride in toothpaste, so how do you
what do I do about that?
negate around that?
Yeah. So the question is about fluoride in toothpaste. So the fluoride in toothpaste has not been shown to cause any kind of issues. Like, I know I hear, does it cause ADHD? Does it cause behavioral health issues? I haven't read any of that information that causes that. Like, I do extensive research. Like, I don't tell folks to do anything that I don't do for my own family and that I have done research on and found that they shouldn't do. There's fluoride in our water. Dental decay kills kids. So I would rather get a little bit of fluoride in your mouth and in your body than you die of an infection. I don't know, did folks, back when I was in medical school, there was a child who died of dental decay in foster care. I think they had seen that, you know, his teeth were really bad. I see teeth like his all the time. Kids get gum infections. I've seen more kids than I want to with gingivitis, and that's like the swelling of the gums and the buildup and the abscesses. I've taken care of multiple kids with abscesses. They're in a lot of pain. And so you want to prevent these dental caries, because especially on those slides, the kids to the right, those pictures on the right, they have to be put to sleep to fix those. Like, it's not simple. They have to be put to sleep. You know, there's a risk with anesthesia. There's a risk of dying with anesthesia. So I really want folks to know that dental caries are a serious issue. And I know it's not all sexy and fun, but it is like a very common health thing that we see, that I see every single day. So brush their teeth, floss their teeth, avoid sugar as much as possible. Okay? And just keep those teeth healthy. All right. The next thing I see. Okay, so this is a schematic of different children. So body mass index is a calculation that we use, and it helps us determine like how healthy kids are overall. And so there's a normal, there's an overweight, and there's an obese. And I know in our minds a lot of time people hear obese and they think something differently than I think as a pediatrician. So we're going to do by raise of hands. Normal. Do you guys agree that this one's in the normal? Yes. Normal? Yeah, everybody's pretty much in agreement. When we're getting into him, Who are you thinking, him or him? Which one of these is going to be overweight and which one's going to be obese? So this one, so you think both are overweight. Okay, I've got it, both are overweight. Anybody think this one's obese?
I think he's obese.
Okay, and who thinks this one's overweight? Just overweight. Okay, this one's obese. So little pudgy kids. So when I see little pudgy kids, if I think they're pudgy, they're usually in the obese range. Overweight, usually just a teeny tiny bit of belly. So in medical terms, we think differently than a lot of like people in the community think. But I know once I get into here and I've kind of got this little fat belly going on, this is when I start talking to parents about what are we eating, what are we doing, what are we drinking, what's the sleep, what's the exercise, how much time is he playing the Xbox. When I get into this range, then I'm thinking we have to do some intensive intervention. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm not talking about putting kids on Weight Watcher or making them run through the streets. I'm talking about very simple stuff. Okay, so is it really a big deal? I hear all the time, my family is big boned. You are skinny, you don't know, we're just big boned, he'll be all right, all of us are all right. And then when I ask, anybody have high blood pressure? The whole family
does, including the kids.
Anybody have diabetes? The whole family. Who's on dialysis? Half of us.
Everybody.
So it is a big deal. We have to get it under control. We talked a little bit about food, well, we didn't explicitly say it, but food justice. Part of the issue is east of the river, we don't have a lot of good options. We are able to do Instacart or go into Maryland or go over to Capitol Hill and go to Trader Joe's and get quality fruits and vegetables. I can't do that east of the river. I go to every meeting I can about healthy nutrition. This being, I don't think it's a food desert, I think it's a food swamp, right? I think it's a food swamp. We have a whole lot of unhealthy things that folks shouldn't eat and not a lot of healthy things. So, big bone, runs in my family, he'll get over it later. The studies show that children who are overweight or obese tend to be overweight and obese adults and then tend to have more problems. So we want to just manage it. So overweight and obesity can lead to diabetes. Every single week, in the last few weeks, I've had to tell parents that their 8 and 9-year-olds are pre-diabetic. Let me repeat that. Every single week, for the last few years that I've been in practice in Southeast, there's at least 1 or 2 children that I've had to tell their parents that they are pre-diabetic. And usually the parent is like, oh my God, I am working with an endocrinologist right now to manage my own diabetes. I don't want my child to be obese. I have referred several children for intervention with weight loss surgery. Children under the age of 13 for life-changing weight loss surgery. So this is a huge issue in our community, a huge issue. I see high blood pressure almost every week, and then menstrual and fertility issues. So I get a lot of young women with irregular periods, a lot of young women with really thick, dark facial hair, really thick, dark velvety rashes, a lot of stretch marks. I even see a lot of 7-year-olds with stretch marks. I am 36. It is hard to feel confident about yourself with stretch marks after 2 babies. So I can't imagine being a 7-year-old, right, with stretch marks that are going to be with me for the rest of my life. So we got to think about these issues. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The goal is not weight loss in most kids. Everybody on that chart that you saw, I would not want them to lose weight. I just want them to slow down on gaining weight. That's it. Literally just slow down. Just don't gain weight or let's get you slowed down. The biggest thing for prevention, again, we get back to the juice, right? Like, y'all, we really don't need the juice. We don't need it. Can you go faster? Okay. Okay. Get enough sleep. The majority of kids don't get enough sleep. The kids need a lot of sleep. Our 7-year-old, he gets 11 hours of sleep. If he doesn't, he turns into a gremlin. I know y'all think he's sweet and you think he's cute. He's not if he gets less than that amount of sleep. So that is going to bed at 8 o'clock and getting up at 7. Because most of our kids have to get up at 7, or if not earlier, if they're going to school like way up in Northwest, like I hear a lot of children. They're getting up at 6 o'clock and they're going to bed at 10. That's not going to work for most kids. The research shows that when you don't get enough sleep, your brain chemistry actually changes. You hold on to fat more, and you're just tired more, so you tend to eat more heavily. Play outside every day. We've got the forest bathing event coming up. I know some communities, there are not a lot of safe places to walk and be in. I have a lot of families who live in public housing that's just not anywhere safe. In our community, I know we've recently had some robberies and things, but in general, our family goes out together. We go out, the 4 of us. The 7-year-old is on his bike or on his rollerblades, and we're in the community. I see folks every single night and every single day out in the community. So it's just as simple. It's just get them outside, get them out from in front of the TV, get them off the Xbox, less screen time. We have a no screen time rule at our house during the week unless he's doing homework. I wish school, 2nd grade, didn't have them doing so much homework on the screen, but they do. So we do it, but you can minimize it. So the current recommendation is less than 2 hours a night. I think that's a lot of time to be in front of a screen. I think you should keep it to 30 minutes if you can on their phones and things, and then take it away when it's bedtime. Do not leave phones with 7 and 8-year-olds. I hear far too many kids policing theirselves, like mom goes to bed at 8 and then once his mom leaves the room and I start talking to him, he's like, I'm on my phone until 10 o'clock watching YouTube videos. So take the phone away from your kids, even your teenagers. They will thank you for it later. They won't thank you for it now. I've gotten a lot of kids that wanted to bite me in the office because I told them that they can't be using their phones at night, but it's better for them. Increase fresh foods as much as you can. Come to my garden. Your kids can eat all of my sugar snap peas and everything from my garden. Just get them used to it. Our 7-year-old goes, gets himself some basil, gets himself whatever from the garden, and just moves along because for him, that's the normal thing that we do. And then decrease takeout, meats. I really have been encouraging, I'm not a vegetarian, but we do as little meat as possible. So meat has a lot of fat in it, and it's the bad fat that affects your heart. And I know our folks love us some chicken and turkey and all those things, but if you could just do one meatless day a week, like a meatless Monday, it's good for the environment and it's good for you overall, so just try it. Beans and rice, like our grandmothers used to feed us. We eat beans and rice pretty much every day at our house. It'll save you money and your heart will be happy. And that doesn't mean use a whole lot of meats to season it. There's a whole lot of stuff you can use to season it. And decrease fatty and salty foods as much as possible. Any questions about that? Yes.
Can I use chicken broth?
You can use whatever broth you want. I'm fine with that. Just be careful with the sodium, right? A lot of those broths have a whole lot of salt in them, so just be careful with that. There are a lot of other salt alternatives, Mrs. Dash, those amino acids that they sell at the grocery store. That's a really good option. They're very low sodium, but it's really salty, and so you only have to use a little bit of it, but it's safer for you. Anything else? Okay. So asthma and allergies. Shannon wanted me to make sure to speak about that. So this is the time of year when you're hearing all types of asthma attacks, all types of runny eyes, snotty nose. So asthma is the most deadly chronic disease in children. Kids die of asthma every single day in America. And a lot of kids, especially in our community, all you see is a cough. So a kid is constantly coughing, this dry cough. It's worse at night. He's having problems sleeping, all of that, and that can be asthma. Our 7-year-old actually presented with his first asthma attack when he was 5, and he kept telling me, Mom, I was coughing at school and then I threw up. And I thought he was just being a little dramatic, but then I'm like, you sound like my patients, tell me more. And he's like, my belly feels funny, and then I start coughing and I throw up. That was an asthma attack in him, and so I had to get on top of it. I usually don't treat my own kids, I let their doctors take care of them, but that's when I started him immediately on asthma meds and took him into the doctor as soon as possible. So common triggers. How many people here use those Glade plugins? Raise your hand. Your body does not know that that is not cigarette smoke.
What about Bath and Body? Is that different?
Your body does not know that it is not cigarette smoke. It is an allergen. It's just the size of the molecule. You can smell it, so it either smells badly or it smells good. That is a receptor in your nose that's responding to it, and so you are causing this, you can cause the same type of negative inflammatory impacts as it would as if somebody was smoking next to you. I know. That is number one. Nobody ever, I've had so many families who, they're like, I just bought those Glade plugins from Bath and Body Works, and then, yeah, she did start coughing, and then they stop it, and a month later, it's completely different. So if you wouldn't smoke cigarettes in your house, be careful with the air fresheners. So cigarette smoke, marijuana smoke, I know weed is legal here in DC. I ain't judging. Y'all do what you do. You grow what you want to grow at home. But if I can smell it when I walk into the room, if I can smell it when I walk into your house, if I can smell it on you when you walk into the Penn Branch Civic Association meeting, I need you to get a smoking jacket, I need you to brush your teeth, I need you to wash your hands before you touch my baby or you touch me, okay? So just decrease the smell. Dust, mold, mice, roaches. Mold, mice, and roaches are rampant in a lot of our public housing here in DC. I have seen pictures that makes you want to like hurt someone, how bad it is in some of these homes. And they're getting subsidized rent from the government here in DC, and I don't know how some of these buildings continue to be able to do business in DC as bad as things get. The Department of Energy and Environment has been really helpful when I refer people. You can refer yourself, and if you can't refer yourself, call me and I'll refer you, okay?
I had one question. In reference to air fresheners, this isn't exactly, not exactly an air freshener, but people that use those natural oils like lavender, stuff like that.
So I haven't seen any. Okay, I haven't seen any research that shows that that affects you the same. My families who use them, I don't usually hear issues from them, so all I can tell you is anecdotal evidence. I'm not sure. We use them in our house sometimes as a more natural alternative. So instead of buying those bathroom sprays with like, you know, that you mist and it kind of goes everywhere, we have a spray bottle. I mix mostly water, so it's like 99% water, and I put like 5 drops of lavender and 5 drops of eucalyptus, and we make our own like house spray. And so we just use it as needed, a few spritz, you know, in the bathroom. But that's what we use, and it hasn't caused any issues in my family. I should probably do a little more research into that. There's also no money in that, so it's hard to get a lot of research funded if like a pharmaceutical company can't make money from it. And I don't know who would make money from doing like a natural oil thing. You probably put a lot of people out of business, so that might be why there's not a whole lot of research. Not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm just saying. Okay, so this is an asthma control test. I wanted to share. This is a validated thing that your pediatrician should be using or could be using. You can print this out off the internet if you want to and take it into your pediatrician if they don't have time to talk to you about it. This lets kids kind of circle, so it says, how is your asthma today on the top, and they've got a happy face all the way down to a little kid who's crying. And these can be used from kids from the ages of 4 to 11 to help you determine how bad their asthma symptoms are. So you can print this out off the internet if, you know, you can talk to your pediatrician about it, but I just wanted to make sure folks knew something that could be used and is a validated kind of tool to see about asthma control. And this is the asthma action plan. How many people have seen the asthma action plan? Anybody? Yeah, one person. This is the tool that's used in DC to help families know what to do. I am actually in conversations with DC government. I have been for years, just saying how difficult this form is to use. I know, Jimmy, it's pretty confusing, right? Like, you don't know what to do, and I think we can simplify this a lot with pictures so that families know what to do quickly during an emergency. So I'll keep you guys updated on this. If anybody's child has asthma and they want me to like draw a different one out, I can. It's got like a sun of what you should do every day, and at nighttime what you should do at night, and then like if you're coughing, like a little picture of a cough, what you should do with pictures. It's much easier for people to use. I hope DC gets away from this confusing form soon, but I want to make sure you knew about this. This is what the school nurses use to help folks know how to manage asthma. So we talked about avoiding triggers. We talked about quitting smoking, or at least going outside, and never smoking in cars. A lot of parents, a lot of grandparents, a lot of aunties and uncles smoke in the car when the kids are not there, and then they pick up the kids from school. It is all in the upholstery of the car, and it's just as bad as if you were smoking. Well, not just as bad, but it's still pretty bad, and it can still increase asthma and allergies and increase cancer. So flush sinuses. This is one thing that I've really been pushing. A lot of the allergists that I've been, the allergy talks that I've been going to every year have been talking about this. Those neti pots or those sinus rinses. Medicines work by decreasing your body's response to the allergens, but if you flush your sinuses, it actually gets the allergens out, and it's actually better overall. So if there's one thing you're going to do to get your allergies under control and even your asthma, get one of those little neti pots and start flushing your sinuses. Has worked wonders for my family. And another thing that families often forget is even if your kid's asthma is well controlled, they should at least be seeing their doctor twice a year to review their to review their symptoms. Any questions about that? No? Okay. All right, I did want to talk briefly about ADHD, behavior problems, and sleep, right? And I group these all together because they usually go all together. So I think it is so key to make sure your child, when you're going and asking about ADHD, if they are not asking you about sleep, if they're not asking you about how much screen time your child is having, if they're not asking you about what your child is eating or trauma exposures, it is not going far enough. No medicine is going to fix these things, right? Like if you don't fix these, the underlying issues, children will continue to have behavior problems. Get children evaluated for learning problems. I know a lot of us with school-age kids are in it right now in the trenches. There are a lot of undiagnosed learning problems in DC. Some schools, they just don't want to test kids, and sometimes you have to push. Sometimes I even have to call and say, no, we want to get this child tested. It is a right. So if a parent is concerned or a grandparent is concerned and the parent agrees to testing, the schools, the charter schools, the private schools, the public schools, they have to test. It is the law. And they have to do it within 60 to 90 days. They have to evaluate them. So push for underlying learning problems, and ask the pediatrician for an out-of-school evaluation, because I found when you have both, it works better at really understanding what's going on. I never rely anymore on just what's in the school evaluations. Get evaluated for serious sleep conditions. I see more sleep apnea in kids, especially in my kids with weight issues, with the necks kind of pushing down, and you do see sleep apnea in little kids. I've seen sleep apnea in like 8-year-olds. It's not fun. And their brains just don't get enough oxygen, and they're not sleeping well. And then therapy for trauma. You know, we've got shootings in our community and around the world. I've seen a few kids this week who are having anxiety issues because of the school shootings. Kids hear about this and they're so nervous going to school. They're so nervous worrying about what's going to happen to them in their school or on their way to school. So therapy is key. All right, so in closing, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Kids Health Basics. That salad is all from my garden, and everything in that is edible, including the flour. That is called a nasturtium. It's a very like mustardy, spicy flour. My 7-year-old loves it. I love it. So good food is key. As much natural, healthy food as you can. Good routines. So that's getting up in the morning at the same time, going to bed on the same time, playing with mom and dad, getting to play with my friends. Lots of playtime, lots of time outside, and of course teeth brushing and flossing are kind of key to me. And then, so what are some folks in DC doing to address some of the health disparities? So my company, I do house calls because I decided mostly what happens in pediatrics happens at home, so I can make people come to my office and fight for parking all day long, but I still need to know what happens at home. So I launched my company in January to do house calls, and in an affordable way, right? Because rich folks have been doing it forever. They've been having concierge medicine where they pay $500 to $1,000 to have the doc come to your house. Michelle Obama's not going to the doctor, you know, like the doctor's coming to her. And so I thought, you know, we can do this. As long as I keep my numbers pretty low and keep it pretty local, I can do this in my community. So this is me doing a house call for one of our neighbors. My appointments are 1 hour long because I found that like less than an hour, I'm rushing, the family's rushing, they don't have time, and I'm keeping it very small. So I'm a mom. You saw my husband here with the baby. We got the other one at baseball and Ridge Road. So I'm keeping it very, very small. And so this is my company, and if folks have any questions, feel free to ask me. And so I think personalized medicine is where we're going. We got to think of local. We got to think of having providers that understand us and know us and can anticipate needs. And I think another thing is specifically having a doctor that has the time to call your specialist. So a lot of times we're referring kids to a cardiologist or referring kids to a therapist, and you're missing what's happening. I call every single one of the specialists that my kids see. And that's it. That's my baby. That's my home office and my dining room.
I have a question. So you mentioned the law, so regarding if a parent or a grandparent wanted to have their child tested, is that law exist in all 50 states, or is that just the DC law?
So, can you flip to the next slide? This one. folks have my contact information. So there are federal laws that kind of mandate that children be evaluated for learning disabilities, and they vary state to state. What I've heard from most people in the DC, Virginia, and Maryland area is that the schools, once you request it, they have between 60 and 90 days to initiate that. That doesn't mean it's finished, but it means that it's initiated, and they have to put in writing that they've initiated this evaluation. It is not grandparents. I want to just make sure I stress that the parents have to agree to it. So even if I refer someone for testing, if the parent says, I don't want my kid tested, they're not going to get tested. The school won't do it because I say, the school only does it because the parent or guardian requests it. You can mention it, like I've heard sometimes of grandparents mentioning it to the school, but again, the parent has to sign for that evaluation because it'll become a part of that child's permanent record. I am of the belief that we should provide as many resources for our children as possible so that they can do all that they can. So I refer early and I refer often, and like we pay for it, all of our taxes pay for it, so why not use these systems that we have? And so that is the process. So it is initiated within 60 to 90 days. And I tell people to start stalking the school. Literally every week go to the office and ask, when's it happening? When's it happening? You could blame it on the doctor. Dr. J said that you were supposed to do it and she's waiting for your report. And sometimes when they hear somebody's watching out, somebody's waiting for it, things happen more quickly. But I can't tell you how many kids, it's 4 months later and they still haven't had the evaluation. They were like, they keep moving the date of the meeting and all this. And you have to, and I really recommend that parents be present in person. I hate getting these IEPs that say parent was absent. Well, how did you evaluate my child and tell me what happened if I wasn't there? So I really push for that.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Hi, Ms. Martin.
It's a federal law. So all states have it's a 45-day where they have to make contact with you to start the process. And then, so please know that, and if you're not responsive, then you need to, if your school is not responsive, you need to reach out to the office of the student advocate and push that issue, because it's a federal law and it's not just, cities can add on to it, but that basic requirement is under IDEA and it's a federal law, so they have to respond.
Okay, thank you.
I just got school 45 days. Okay.
Thank you so much. And we've been talking about this since, September? So I'm excited that she finally got to do her presentation. It was beautiful, very informative, and I felt like a bad mom. But anywho, I'm joking. We can hit the reset button any day, time, or hour. So quickly, I'm going to let DL come up and give us an update, because we're running short on time, about the ANC meeting the special meeting that was this week.
Hello, Penn Branch, how you doing?
Hey.
So, my name is D.L. Humphrey. I am the ANC chairman for ANC 7B. I'm good. Nice to see so many lovely faces that I already know, so I'm just going to be very, very, very brief. So, this past Thursday, we had, just kind of bring people up to date real quick. There was a challenge placed forth by two former commissioners in regards to the two current commissioners for 7B04, 7B05. The challenge was placed forth by former Commissioner Phil Hammond and also his daughter, former Commissioner Barbara Martin. Long story short, they stated that the two individuals, Mr. Valario Johnson, Commissioner Valario Johnson, and also Commissioner Nicole Smith McDermott, did not reside at the home in which they say they resided at. And so therefore they could not be qualified electors when it came to the vote, when it came to the process. And so, one thing that I've stated from day one, that I believe that the ANC should not be involved when it comes to individuals' residency requirements. That's something in which that we're not here for. The ANC is here to serve the people. That's what we're supposed to do. And so I adamantly opposed any type of resolution we put forth. I thought that it was, to me, it should be the responsibility of the Board of Elections and Ethics to do this. Just like you go down to the DMV to get your driver's license, you should go down to the Board of Election and Ethics to say, hey, you want to be an ANC commissioner. So the ANC, the Board of Elections then stated that we had to make a resolution to see if there was a vacancy that existed. So we had to hold a special hearing, a special meeting. And it was something of a court process in which the individuals had to bring proof that they actually stayed where they say they stayed. And our challengers had to bring proof to say that they did. So after that all was said and done, the ANC voted that the two commissioners are in place, down from Valario, Ms. Valario Johnson, and also Ms. Nicole Smith-McDermott, that they are currently in place now. What happens going forward is that, and I think that former Commissioner Phil Hammond stated that it's not going to be over. There will be some court proceedings that's going to take place, whatever have you. But just to let you know, the ANC is currently out of that picture, so we don't have to do anything when it comes to that. So I just want to give that quick update. Also, I guess, let me, if I could, have 20 seconds on put on my city council hat. I'm also the deputy director for Councilmember Vincent Gray. Thank you so very much for having this health presentation. As you all know, the council member is on top of the health committee. So right now, we have up to 20 homicides in Ward 7. It's a daunting number that's happening, and I kind of want to make sure that people are aware. Look, we did a crime summit. A lot of things came from that crime summit. There's some good suggestions on how we're going to do this, but the problem is this. We cannot police our way out of, or arrest our way out of criminal activity. Some things are just going to happen, and people, the biggest thing is the quality of life issues that needs to take place before the crime that happens. And so the councilman was actually looking into, and I'm actually a part of that task force, to look into what we can do as far as providing more money for the violence interrupters, and also to provide the ANC actually stated that we're going to ask for 10 additional officers for the 6th district. Just to let you know, we picked up parts of Ward 8 in this rezoning piece that's taking place in the 6th district. We picked up Marbury Plaza, and we also picked up some parts of Good Hope Road. So my question is, did we pick up the officers as well that came, since we picked up part of Ward 8, we need to pick up additional officers as well to help police these particular areas. So, with that being said, I'll answer any questions, comments or concerns. I also want to give everybody my contact information as well. So this young lady, and then this young lady in the back, and this young lady here.
So you said you asked for 10 additional police officers. How many of the violence interrupters that you mentioned, how many currently exist in our community, and how many did you ask for?
So currently, there are, when it comes to violence interrupters, this is coming from the ONE's office, the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. They're actually not violence interrupters, but it's just that particular office. When I asked them,
So you mean zero?
Yeah,
So we have zero.
Zero violence interrupters. What we have are two of the ONE's office when it comes to the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. We have 2 people. We've asked for increased numbers when it comes to the ONE's office as well. I do not believe that you can effectively do your job when you have 2 people and there's 29 communities in Ward 7. And especially when it's PSA 605, where it's heavily impacted by the crime, where PSA 605 is that Bing Road area, G Street, Benco Market, and all that particular places. That's where we have seen the influx. But now, you see that crime is spilling over into our other neighborhoods, which you really we do not see crime. We had a robbery attempt on W Street, where the gentleman tried to rob a lady and walked her around. We actually did a community walk with that, and then we turned around and looked up. There was a triple homicide over there on the Fort Davis Street. So we're seeing an influx of crime, and our community and residents need to feel safe. When we look at the closure rate for MPD, we have 3 out of 20 homicides that's been closed. That's not good enough. That is definitely not good enough. So my whole thing is that we need to ask for more. So I want to make sure that you all have my email address, that you can email me, please. I implore you, please email my office, Councilman Gray's office, and make sure that you say, look, we need X, Y, Z when it comes to the Ward 7. We need to make sure that we flood this office with email. If they do it, and this is what I want to hear. People say, hey, we do it up in Georgetown. If it was up in Georgetown, we wouldn't hear it. If it was over in DuPont Circuit, we wouldn't do it. But we need to do what those people do over there. So we need to start sending more emails over to the councilman's office to get them involved.
So how many did you ask for? Because you didn't
So
answer
we
that.
have
0.
Yeah. So we asked for at least 10.
Violence interrupters.
Yeah, violence
and these are
interrupters.
community lay people that are trained and paid a living wage to do this. All right, I'm with it.
All right. Okay, so answer that. Young lady in the back.
I was asking more policemen from Washington DC
Yes.
in preference to those who live in Maryland
Yeah.
and Virginia.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they would have more concern to me about our brothers and sisters who are, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
being arrested.
Totally agree with you.
Because I have also talked with some policemen right on Minnesota Avenue because of the conditions over there. And they told me they wouldn't live it here in Washington DC. They have no concern about it, really. They was locking them up, that's all. Obama released so many, they're ready to lock up that many.
So just to let you know, one thing that I talked to the council members about, was the need for MPD officers to live and work in their community. And so we talked about what can we do to help the cadet program, the current cadet program, to say, look, we need to make sure that these cadets, once they graduate and they do their 60 credits, and they have all the things that they need as far as to become sworn officers, how can we make sure that those cadets stay in Ward 7, stay in the community? And so we're looking at incentives to place inside that. But see, this is what we have to do also, people. The councilman cannot do it alone. I'll tell you what the magic number on that council is, 7. The magic number is 7. We need 7 votes. You have a councilman that's already pushing for it. We have 6 other votes. We have 4 at-large council members. That's 4 council members right there that we need to get in contact with to make sure that they know what we need in Ward 7. Heck, they come out here when it's time for them to vote. We need them to do something when we get them in office. And so that's the thing, is that we need to make sure that we flood that office. I have no problem. I say the hard stuff every single time. The people that don't want to hear it, I'm gonna tell you. So that's what we need. So we are looking to keep the cadets in Ward 7, make sure because you gotta think about it. You have incentives to bring them here, but we have to keep them here. So I don't want to take up time to go to my next question. Okay.
She was up before.
Oh, you.
All right.
Oh, you don't?
I do have a question, but
Go ahead.
on the resolution you came to on the residency question, I was just wondering if you could clarify, you said you came to the resolution that they are in place. Does that mean you also confirmed that they reside where, at the address they provided?
Yes, that has been, all of the documentation that we have seen, it states that, look, they both provide the documentation and say that they stay where they say they stay. And so with that resolution being passed, we simply says, hey, this is what we have. Again, we have to give that back to the Board of Elections and Ethics. Then they will make a ruling. And after that, whatever other proceeding needs to happen, you know, we're out of the picture. My thing is this, as chairman of ANC 7B, I do not want any type of foolishness or any type of cloud hanging over the ANC. And that was the main thing. We need to get that cloud out of our hands. It is not for us to find out where you live. I don't know, you know, I know where Jimmy lives, come over, but I shouldn't have to worry about where you stay. So that's my thing. So that's what we have so far. I think Jimmy had the last question of this.
Yeah, so my question is along the same line, and it's really along what do you recommend? Because I think in this particular case, people have concerns about the process, and I do agree with you that throwing it on the ANC is problematic. That's not your job.
Yes.
But when you do have a question, and we do have some residents that actually question the validity, whether they live where they say they live. What's your recommended approach for residents who have that concern?
Yes.
And how do you think it should be handled, given that, you know, it's really not an ANC job?
Right. Thank you for asking that question. So what I believe that needs to happen is this, and I'm actually have a meeting coming up with Robert White. I believe that the ANC rules and regulations need to be revamped. I think that's the first thing that needs to happen, is that they need to be revamped, because they go to it antiquated solutions back in the day. This stuff was like, okay, it worked back in 1970s, and you know, whenever it was adopted, it's not working today. The ANC rules and regulations actually did not attest to what is going on currently. And so I believe that we need to look at it, we need to revamp it, we need to say, look, this is what is going on here. And if a situation like this was to arise, because I had other commissioners from even Ward 3 and 4 come over to ANC 7B to see how will we handle it. Because they're saying, we don't know what would happen if this came up in our single member district and our commission. So the first thing is to look at the ANC laws, revamp those and also to include other ANCs into the process and say, look, what do you think? Let's look forward, kind of forward thinking, what else might happen that we need to change? And so that's the.
So my only follow-up is, as an association
Yes.
and as residents, when you have that type of information, what should we do now in that window?
What I believe,
we know elections are next year, so we can handle that, but what do we do now about the law? And for those of us who know that there is problematic.
I think at this point what you can do is that you need to, once again, we need to advocate for our commissioners, advocate for ourselves, and actually send the emails and say, hey, look, we as Penn Branch, we believe that you all need to look and revamp these ANC laws. I mean, that is something in which that as the Civic Association, because I've got multiple calls from people that say, look, I'm not satisfied with what happened at the ANC. I'm not satisfied. And so, I mean, only thing I can tell them now is that you can either sign an affidavit and go down and testify, but I believe the main thing is to send an email saying, hey, look, we think that these laws need to be changed. So do it now before it happens again. Because this situation could very well happen again.
So this is something the association can participate in, and this is something that we can participate in as individuals.
I think my main thing has always been transparency and always making sure that the people are the process and that you all make sure that we work for you all. Even as deputy director, I will still work for you all. So with that being said, thank you so very much. I'm going to give out my contact information. So I always do this. I want people to have because I try my best to be the most accessible person in Ward 7 when it comes to ANC Commission and even inside the council office. So I'm going to give you my office number, my cell phone number, and my email address. It's 202-276-3307. That's my personal cell. And my email address is the letter D as in David, Humphrey, H-U, M as in Mary, P as in Peter, H-R-E-Y, at DC Council. DCCOUNCIL.US. So I hope to hear from you all. I can't wait to get those emails, and thank you so very much, Mr. President. And cool.
Thank you. I saw quite a few people writing it down, so you better get some phone calls. That's for sure. Okay, quickly, Tawana, can you come up and give the treasurer report, and we're just going to try to zip through these last few things because we ran over.
Good evening, everyone. What I have here is the treasury report. I put it on the table so that all the residents can have a copy. And the beginning balance as of March is $2,541. And we received $140 of membership for this for 2019, which our new balance is $2,689.41. And that balance matches exactly what's in the bank. Any questions?
I move we accept the treasury report as read.
I second that motion.
So moved.
Kyle, do you want to briefly update us on the bylaws?
Hello again, everybody. So I'll be quick. Last week, Vice President Jacqueline and I met with representatives from Latham & Watkins. It's a law firm in Washington, D.C. That we, PBCCA, have been paired with through the D.C. Bar Pro Bono Center. This law firm is most likely willing to work with us to update our bylaws to bring them into compliance with both D.C. and federal laws, and also to help us to develop policies and procedures to govern our regular activities, including things to keep us in compliance with the laws, to do our taxes, but also how to run our finances and other basic things that typical 501c3 organizations do. So we are in the early stages. We're expecting a draft engagement letter from the law firm in the next week or so. This is where they outline what they would do. We'll have an opportunity as a board to review that, make any changes, and then sign on to it. And that's when the work would actually begin with the law firm. We will keep you all updated on next steps in that process. And as our current bylaws call for, any proposals to change the bylaws will have to come through this the general body for a vote as well at the right stage. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Stan, next he'll come up and talk about the block captains.
Right.
Okay, hello. John Beachworth once again. All right. I'm actually a block captain chairperson in training, and to my right here is my mentor, Miss Paul. So I'm actually ask Miss Paul. Well, step on up, please. Come on. We have one of our block captains is stepping down. She's been block captain for 25 years.
We have a block captain in the 3300 block, Ms. Patricia Carter, who has served very diligently your community. So is Ms. Bush still here? Okay, we lost Ms. Bush, but what we will be doing is giving her a thank you note on behalf of this entire community and the board, saying thank you for serving. These people get out like the mailman, rain, snow, or ice to try to get these newsletters and flyers to your homes. I think it's prudent for the block captains that are still here to quickly stand up, and Stan will have to be recognized in terms of what blocks you cover.
Okay, we have Mr. Owens of, where's Mr. Owens? Yes, back corner, 1700 block of Highway Drive. Mr. Place, Mr. Holt. Where is he?
Lance, he just left.
Mr. Lance just left. Let's see, we have Rosemary, I saw over there. Yeah. 33rd Street. And Elsa Nash. Right here. There he is. Let's see, 33rd place. Miss Julia Burke of July.
S Street.
S Street.
With Miss Liz.
Yes, with Miss Liz.
She's my co-captain.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and on the one thing, we're gonna have a little block captain get together at my place May 4th, afternoon. No solid details yet, and I think that's about it. That's all I have. All right, hey, have a nice night. Wait, I'm sorry.
I used to be the block captain at 3200 block of Highway Drive.
Right, Mr. Sneed.
I'm not able to do it anymore. It's been at least a couple of years, and I understand there's been some newsletters. Matter of fact, I received a newsletter from Ms. Wood that lives in the 3300 block.
Right.
She got a newsletter, and she made a copy of it and brought it down to me. And we've been trying to get a block captain on the 3200 block for 2 or 3 years, and it's not happening.
Wait, 3200 block of what street?
Highway Drive.
Highway Drive.
Your neighbors are recruiting somebody as we speak. So when we get this coming month's newsletter ready, we should have one, and we will update you in the full community meeting on the website, a full list of all our honorable black captains. They work hard for you.
But if that is not successful, you don't.
I will deliver you a newsletter myself.
And we have a Terrence. Is Terrence in the house? Is he here?
I don't think so, but.
With our new black captain on the O Street, Mr. Terrence. All right. Okay, did I miss anybody? Any black captains in here? Miss Maya. Miss Linda. My name is
3600 block.
Yeah, 3600 block of Highway Drive. Sorry about that. My apologies. Okay, thank you.
Is the yard sale, I'm looking for the volunteer, the yard sale sign up that was coming down.
That's okay.
Oh,
No, it's
okay.
not.
Susan,
Thank you. Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay, make sure you guys please fill out the surveys because we want your feedback and we want to make sure we make those revisions if you have any for Community Day. Also, we want to thank those people that came out on Saturday to clean up the 9/11 park. We greatly appreciate your service and your dedication. Also, am I forgetting anything? Oh, and thank you to our block captains for your dedication and your constant service throughout this neighborhood and getting those newsletter out. So thank you. I appreciate it. That'll be all, and we'll see you guys next month. Get home safely. Quickly. Yes.
Deanwood Recreation Center is not too far from here. I know it's not in our ward, but they have all-day swimming, lane swimming, and swimming for the young people, and it's open to the public. If you have a, validated license residents, that you're a DC resident. Sometimes I swim in that pool for an hour and there's nobody else in the pool. The water's warm, it's a pool, it's available for anyone that's a district resident.
Say no more, I'll reach out and have them come speak at our next meeting.
Very farm pool, that was renovated, it's amazing.
Okay. Okay, I'll reach out to them and have them come. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, just come.
Meeting adjourned?
Let me thank